Argentina is one of several countries in South America still battling through the courts to find justice for tens of thousands of victims. They're the casualties of military dictatorships that ruled with terror in the 1970s and 80s. Uruguay thought it was forging ahead until two recent events rocked the country. Daniel Schweimler went to Montevideo to investigate.
Little Uruguay is known for its peace and tranquility. That's on the surface. Underneath, it's still battling to resolve the horror it lived through during military rule between 1973 and 1985, when hundreds of its citizens were kidnapped, tortured and killed. Many of the bodies have still not been found. The military regimes in the region cooperated in capturing and returning their perceived opponents to one another's countries in what they called Operation Condor. Oscar lost a brother, Alva her son, to Operation Condor. They've been fighting for justice ever since.
Our fight is legitimate. We're not going to kill anyone to find out what happened to our disappeared, because we have a weapon which is ethical and moral, which they didn't have. In politics, that ethical and moral element is often missing.
After the return to democracy, amnesty laws were introduced that allowed the kidnappers and killers to go free. In 2011, the Inter-American Court of Human Rights ruled against those laws in a case brought by the Argentine poet Juan Gelman, whose son and daughter-in-law were killed by the military. But last month, Uruguay's Supreme Court said that that ruling violated their constitution. The families fighting for justice were devastated.
We'd already seen signs that they were not going to allow the situation to continue advancing as it had been. Little things said by the Ministry of Defense, changes in attitude. But no, we didn't know what would happen in that moment. All the same, it was a tremendous shock. It's still a tremendous shock.
Mariana Mota was one of the few judges in Uruguay dedicated to helping victims' families. Suddenly, without warning or reason, she was moved to a civil court, and Uruguay's fight for justice suffered a second blow.
A society that doesn't look at its past, doesn't investigate what happened, will not advance. Because we're looking at a state that committed these crimes, and that state is still in place. It remains unchanged. The politicians change, but the system protecting these individuals is still there.
The first trial of some of those behind Operation Condor opened in Argentina earlier this month. Across the region, some progress is being made, but old obstacles remain, while new ones are still being put up. Nearly 30 years after the end of military government here in Uruguay, the victims' families are still fighting for justice. As recent events have shown, it's a long and often painful process. Daniel Schweimler, CCTV, Montevideo.